It's hard to believe such a thing could be true, and I hope such a thing never happens to you. But it happened, they say, to poor Maisie McGrew. It happened like this. She was sitting one day at her desk in her school in her usual way, when she felt a small twitch on the top of her head. So Maisie looked up, and she almost dropped dead. Something peculiar was going on there. A daisy was sprouting right out of her hair. Boing! Behind her was sitting young Herman Butch Strudel. This looks like a daisy up here on her noodle. It doesn't make sense. Why, it couldn't be so. A noodle's no place for a daisy to grow. Then up spoke another boy, Einstein Van Tass, the brightest young boy in the whole of the class. It's a very odd place to be sprouting a daisy, but nevertheless, one is growing on Maisie. Hey, look it, cried Butch, right here in this room. Daisy head Maisie. She's bursting in bloom. Miss Sneecher, the teacher, came rushing up quick. Such nonsense! Some child is playing a trick. Which one of you boys stuck that thing in her hair? You know a daisy could never grow there. But teacher, said Butch, I saw the thing rise right out of her head with my very own eyes. Just give it a yank if you think I tell lies. Miss Nature had heard quite enough of this talk. Maisie, hold still. Let me get at that stalk. Ouch! hollered Maisie. Quit yanking, Butch said. You're giving her pains. I'll bet those roots go way down in her brains. The kids in the room started shouting like crazy. Daisy head, daisy head, daisy head, Maisie. Children, be quiet. Miss Nature was puzzled. Good grief and alas, to think that this happened right here in my class. I've taught in this room for 20 years, maybe more, but I've never seen anything like this before. I'll have to report it. You'll just have to come to the principal's office and show Mr. Grum. Now the principal, good Mr. Gregory Grum, was a very wise man, just as smart as they come. He knew more than anyone else in this nation about long division and multiplication. He knew all the answers, why oceans are deep, why skies are so high, and why mountains are steep. He should have the answer to this thing on Maisie. My word, he declared, it's a genuine daisy. I've seen them quite often in fields growing wild, but never before on the head of a child. Now what in the world ever made this thing sprout? I have no idea, but I'm going to find out. It says here, daisies grow on the land. They grow between rocks. They grow also in sand. It mentions right here they can grow in a pot. But mention the head of a girl, it does not. Daisies, it says, sometimes grow in Alaska, also Missouri, Rhode Island, Nebraska. They grow in Japan and in Spain and Peru, in India, France, and in Idaho too. They grow in South Boston and also in Rome. But why should they grow on this little girl's dome? Say, look it, said Maisie. It's wilting, said teacher. How wonderful, Maisie. It soon will be dead. You'll be rid of that daisy. In just a few minutes, our troubles will pass. declared Dr. Grum. "Take her back to class." Then the principal saw a most terrible sight. The daisy was dying, and that was all right. But that daisy was part of poor MAYZIE McGrew, and MAYZIE was starting to wilt away too. "Teacher," said Grum, "you know what I think. They're both going to die. Hurry, bring them a drink." "This is a problem," said Grum with a frown. "You take MAYZIE away and you make her lie down. You lock her up tight in that room down the hall. There are quite a few numbers that I've got to call. Get MAYZIE's mother on the end of the line. I need her here quickly, while there is still time." MAYZIE's mom asked, "What's all the fuss?" "Goodness to Betsy, I'll be on the next bus." A call to the shoe store reached Mr. McGrew. He answered while holding a customer's shoe. "She's growing a what? I'm coming right there." And he ran out of the shoe store with no time to spare. "A doctor should see her," the principal said, "and an expert on plants like the one on her head." So he called Dr. Eisenbart, who said, "Goodness gracious! A child with a head that is partly herbaceous? I simply must see this. I'll come over to you." And his patient, though shirtless, came to see it too. Then Grum called Finch the florist, who grabbed for his shears. "I'll be there as fast as my truck can shift gears." Meanwhile, poor MAYZIE lay down on a couch. The daisy slumped down on its stem in a slouch. But the window was open because it was warm, and the sweet-smelling daisy attracted a swarm of bees. Bees! 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 MAYZIE jumped out the window. What else could she do? But the faster she ran, the faster they flew. In the park she ran into Officer Thatcher. The bees on her heels were just starting to catch her. He said, "Wait a minute, kid. I'll be right back," and left MAYZIE alone to fend off the attack. But Thatcher returned with a fishbowl and bucket, into which went the fish from the bowl. Then he stuck it on top of her head. She felt like a fool. "Kid, I'm taking you back to your school." Principal Grum didn't know what to do. "It's worse," cried Miss Nature. "Much worse than we feared. The daisy and MAYZIE have both disappeared." Behind her came charging Mr. McGrew, chased by a customer chasing his shoe. Finch the florist, Dr. Eisenbart too, Dr. Eisenbart's patient, and Mrs. McGrew. Then the door opened, and in came poor MAYZIE, wearing a fishbowl, protecting her daisy. Then Officer Thatcher, who looked all around, said, "Anyone here know this kid that I found?" "Mama!" cried MAYZIE as she ran to her mother. But Mrs. McGrew stepped back with a shudder. "I think I feel faint," she just managed to utter. "Stand back," yelled the doctor as he looked about. "Allow me some room to examine her sprout." The doctor approached, stethoscope to his ear, but the wail of a siren was all he could hear. "His Honor, the Mayor!" And then, without warning, the door opened wide, and who but the mayor should step right inside? At acting important, there was none to compare. He was best at long speeches, chock full of hot air. "I promise, my friends, that if I'm re-elected, this daisy on MAYZIE will be disconnected. The law of our fathers is simple and sound. Daisies belong and should stay in the ground. The rest are illegal. We'll bar them from town." Then, just as the mayor finished his talk, Finch the florist began to quietly walk, and, standing directly right behind Mayzie, said, "I know the way to get rid of the daisy. So there's a flower between her two ears. I'll snip it clean off with my sharp pruning shears." But Mayzie, she saw him and let out a screech. She pushed him aside and raced out of his reach. Mayzie ran from the school, headed straight out of town. She came to a meadow and fell to the ground. With her head in her hands, she lay all alone. Her heart, it was broken. She could never go home. "Nobody loves me. Nobody loves me. Nobody loves me," she cried. Nobody loved her? Poor Mayzie McGrew. It's hard to believe such a thing could be true. And maybe that's why, when this daisy above, when Mayzie below began talking of love, well, you know about daisies. When love is in doubt, the job of a daisy is try and find out. They love her not. They love her not. "Don't worry, Mayzie," said her daisy, as its last petal fell. "They love you." Then the stalk disappeared. Well, that's how it all happened. The thing went away, and Mayzie McGrew is quite happy today, back in her studies and doing just great in all of her subjects in room number 8. And concerning that daisy, you know that it never grew out of the top of her head again, ever. Well, it practically never popped up there again, excepting occasionally, just now and then. And, after all, I'm getting used to it. On the 15th of May, in the jungle of Newell, in the heat of the day, in the cool of the pool, he was splashing, enjoying the jungle's great joys, when Horton the elephant heard a small noise. So Horton stopped splashing. He looked toward the sound. "That's funny," thought Horton. "There's no one around." Then he heard it again, just a very faint yelp, as if some tiny person were calling for help. "I'll help you," said Horton. "But who are you? Where?" He looked and he looked. He could see nothing there, but a small speck of dust blowing past through the air. "I say," murmured Horton, "I've never heard tell of a small speck of dust that is able to yell. So you know what I think? Why, I think that there must be someone on top of that small speck of dust. Some sort of creature of very small size, too small to be seen by an elephant's eyes. Some poor little person who's shaking with fear that he'll blow in the pool. He has no way to steer. I'll just have to save him, because, after all, a person's a person, no matter how small." So, gently, and using the greatest of care, the elephant stretched his great trunk through the air, and he lifted the dust speck and carried it over, and placed it down safe on a very soft clover. "Humph!" humped a voice. 'Twas a sour kangaroo, and the young kangaroo in her pouch said, "Humph!" too. "Why, that speck is as small as the head of a pin. A person on that? Why, there never has been." "Believe me," said Horton, "I tell you sincerely. My ears are quite keen, and I heard him quite clearly. I know there's a person down there, and what's more, quite likely there's 2, even 3, even 4. Quite likely a family for all that we know. A family with children just starting to grow. So please," Horton said, "as a favor to me, Try not to disturb them. Just please let them be." "I think you're a fool," laughed the sour kangaroo. And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, "Me too." "You're the biggest blame fool of the jungle of Newell." And the kangaroos plunged in the cool of the pool. "What terrible splashing!" The elephant frowned. "I can't let my very small persons get drowned. I've got to protect them. I'm bigger than they." So he picked up the clover and hustled away. Through the high jungle treetops, the news quickly spread. "He talks to a dust speck. He's out of his head. Just look at him walk with that speck on that flower." And Horton walked, worrying, almost an hour. "Should I put this speck down?" Horton thought with alarm. "If I do, these small persons may come to great harm. I can't put it down, and I won't. After all, a person's a person, no matter how small." Then Horton stopped walking. The speck voice was talking. The voice was so faint he could just barely hear it. "Speak up, please," said Horton. He put his ear near it. "My friend," came the voice, "you're a very fine friend. You've helped all us folks on this dust speck no end. You've saved all our houses, our ceilings and floors. You've saved all our churches and grocery stores." "You mean," Horton gasped, "you have buildings there too?" "Oh, yes," piped the voice. "We most certainly do." "I know," called the voice. "I'm too small to be seen, but I'm mayor of a town that is friendly and clean. Our buildings, to you, would seem terribly small, but to us who aren't big, they are wonderfully tall. My town is called Whoville, for I am a Who, and we Whos are all thankful and grateful to you." And Horton called back to the mayor of the town, "You're safe now. Don't worry. I won't let you down." But just as he spoke to the mayor of the speck, 3 big jungle monkeys climbed up Horton's neck. The Wickersham brothers came shouting, "What rot! This elephant's talking to Whos who are not. There aren't any Whos, and they don't have a mayor. And we're going to stop all this nonsense. So there." They snatched Horton's clover. They carried it off to a black-bottomed eagle named Vladikoff, a mighty strong eagle, a very swift wing. And they said, "Will you kindly get rid of this thing?" And before the poor elephant even could speak, that eagle flew off with the flower in his beak. All that late afternoon and far into the night, that black-bottomed bird flapped his wings in fast flight, while Horton chased after with groans over stones that tattered his toenails and battered his bones, and begged, "Please don't harm all my little folks who have as much right to live as us bigger folks do." But far, far beyond him, that eagle kept flapping, and over his shoulder called back, "Quit your yapping. I'll fly the night through. I'm a bird, I don't mind it, and I'll hide this tomorrow where you'll never find it." And at 6:56 the next morning he did it. It sure was a terrible place that he hid it. He let that small clover drop somewhere inside of a great patch of clovers 100 miles wide. "Fine that," sneered the bird, "but I think you will fail." And he left with a flip of his black-bottomed tail. "I'll find it," cried Horton. "I'll find it or bust. I shall find my friends on my small speck of dust." And clover by clover by clover with care, he picked up and searched and called, Are you there? But clover by clover by clover he found that the one that he sought for was just not around. And by noon poor old Horton, more dead than alive, had picked, searched, and piled up 9,005. Then on through the afternoon, hour after hour, till he found them at last on the 3,000,000th flower. My friends, cried the elephant, tell me, do tell, are you safe? Are you sound? Are you whole? Are you well? From down on the speck came the voice of the mayor. We've really had trouble, much more than our share. When that black-bottomed birdie let go and we dropped, we landed so hard that our clocks have all stopped. Our teapots are broken, our rocking chairs smashed, and our bicycle tires all blew up when we crashed. So Horton, please, pleaded that voice of the mayor's, will you stick by us who's while we're making repairs? Of course, Horton answered. Of course I will stick. I'll stick by you small folks through thin and through thick. Humph, humped a voice. For almost 2 days you've run wild and insisted on chatting with persons who've never existed. Such carryings on in our peaceable jungle. We've had quite enough of your bellowing bungle. And I'm here to state, snapped the big kangaroo, that your silly nonsensical game is all through. And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, me too. With the help of the Wickersham brothers and dozens of Wickersham uncles and Wickersham cousins and Wickersham in-laws, whose help I've engaged, you're going to be roped and you're going to be caged. And as for your dust speck, ha! That we shall boil in a hot steaming kettle of bezel nut oil. Boil it, gasped Horton. Oh, that you can't do. It's all full of persons. They'll prove it to you. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, Horton called. Mr. Mayor, you've got to prove now that you really are there. So call a big meeting. Get everyone out. Make every who holler. Make every who shout. Make every who scream. If you don't, every who is going to end up in a bezel nut stew. And down on the dust speck, the scared little mayor quick called a big meeting in the Whoville town square. And his people cried loudly. They cried out in fear. We are here! We are here! We are here! We are here! The elephant smiled. That was clear as a bell. You kangaroos surely heard that very well. All I heard, snapped the big kangaroo, was the breeze and the faint sound of wind through the far distant trees. I heard no small voices, and you didn't either. And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, me neither. Grab him, they shouted, and cage the big dope. Lasso his stomach with 10 miles of rope. Tie the knots tight so he'll never shake loose. Then dunk that dumb speck in the bezel nut juice. Horton fought back with great vigor and vim, but the Wickersham gang was too many for him. They beat him, they mauled him, they started to haul him into his cage, but he managed to call to the mayor, don't give up, I believe in you all. A person's a person, no matter how small. And you very small persons will not have to die if you make yourselves heard. So come on now and try. The mayor grabbed a tom-tom. He started to smack it. And all over Whoville, they whooped up a racket. They rattled tin kettles. They beat on brass pans, on garbage pail tops, and old cranberry cans. They blew on bazookas and blasted great toots, on clarinets, oompas, and boompas, and flutes. Great gusts of loud racket rang high through the air. They rattled and shook the whole sky, and the mayor called up through the howling, mad hullabaloo. "Hey, Horton, how's this? Is our sound coming through?" And Horton called back, "I can hear you just fine, but the kangaroo's ears aren't as strong quite as mine. They don't hear a thing. Are you sure all your boys are doing their best? Are they all making noise? Are you sure every who down in Whoville is working? Quick, look through your town. Is there anyone shirking?" Through the town rushed the mayor, from the east to the west. But everyone seemed to be doing his best. Everyone seemed to be yapping or yipping. Everyone seemed to be beeping or bipping. But it wasn't enough, all this ruckus and roar. He had to find someone to help him make more. He raced through each building. He searched floor to floor. And just as he felt he was getting nowhere and almost about to give up in despair, he suddenly burst through a door, and that mayor discovered one shirker, quite hidden away, in the Fairfax apartments, apartment 12J. And a very small shirker named Jojo was standing, just standing, and bouncing a yo-yo, not making a sound, not a yip, not a chirp. And the mayor rushed inside, and he grabbed the young twerp, and he climbed with the lad up the Eiffelberg Tower. "This," cried the mayor, "is your town's darkest hour, the time for all who have blood that is red, to come to the aid of their country," he said. "We've got to make noises in greater amounts. So open your mouth, lad, for every voice counts." Thus he spoke as he climbed. When they got to the top, the lad cleared his throat and shouted out, "Yop!" And that yop, that one small extra yop, put it over. Finally, at last, from that speck on that clover, their voices were heard. They rang out clear and clean. And the elephant smiled. "Do you see what I mean? They've proved they are persons, no matter how small. And their whole world was saved by the smallest of all." "How true! Yes, how true!" said the big kangaroo. "And from now on, you know what I'm planning to do? From now on, I'm going to protect them with you." And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, "Me too. From sun in the summer, from rain when it's fall-ish, I'm going to protect them no matter how small-ish." Left foot, right foot, right. Feet in the morning, feet at night. Left foot, right. Wet foot, dry foot. Low foot, high foot. Front feet, back feet. Red feet, black feet. Left foot, right foot. Feet, feet, feet. How many feet you meet. Slow feet, quick feet. Trick feet, sick feet. Up feet, down feet. Here come clown feet. Small feet, big feet. Here come pig feet. His feet, her feet. Fuzzy fur feet. In the house and on the street. How many feet you meet. Up in the air feet. Over a chair feet. More and more feet. 24 feet. Here come more and more feet. Left foot, right foot. Feet, feet, feet. Oh, how many feet you meet. The sun did not shine. It was too wet to play. So we sat in the house all that cold, wet day. I sat there with Sally. We sat there, we two. And I said, how I wish we had something to do. Too wet to go out and too cold to play ball. So we sat in the house. We did nothing at all. So all we could do was to sit, 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 sit. And we did not like it. Not one little bit. Bump! And then something went bump. How that bump made us jump. We looked. Then we saw him step in on the mat. We looked and we saw him, the cat in the hat. And he said to us, why do you sit there like that? I know it is wet and the sun is not sunny, but we can have lots of good fun that is funny. I know some good games we could play, said the cat. I know some new tricks, said the cat in the hat. A lot of good tricks. I will show them to you. Your mother will not mind at all if I do. Then Sally and I did not know what to say. Our mother was out of the house for the day. But our fish said, no, no, make that cat go away. Tell that cat in the hat you do not want to play. He should not be here. He should not be about. He should not be here when your mother is out. Now, now, have no fear. Have no fear, said the cat. My tricks are not bad, said the cat in the hat. Why, we can have lots of good fun if you wish, with a game that I call Up, Up, Up with a Fish. Put me down, said the fish. This is no fun at all. Put me down, said the fish. I do not wish to fall. Have no fear, said the cat. I will not let you fall. I will hold you up high as I stand on a ball, with a book in one hand and a cup on my hat. But that is not all I can do, said the cat. Look at me now, said the cat, with a cup and a cake on the top of my hat. I can hold up 2 books. I can hold up the fish, and a little toy ship, and some milk on a dish. And look, I can hop up and down on the ball. But that is not all. Oh no, that is not all. Look at me, look at me, look at me now. It is fun to have fun, but you have to know how. I can hold up the cup, and the milk, and the cake. I can hold up these books, and the fish on a rake. I can hold the toy ship and the little toy man. And look, with my tail, I can hold a red fan. I can fan with the fan as I hop on the ball. But that is not all. Oh no, that is not all. That is what the cat said. Then he fell on his head. He came down with a bump from up there on the ball. And Sally and I, we saw all the things fall. And our fish came down too. He fell into a pot. He said, do I like this? Oh no, I do not. This is not a good game, said our fish as he lit. No, I do not like it, not one little bit. Now look what you did, said the fish to the cat. Now look at this house. Look at this. Look at that. You sank our toy ship, sank it deep into cake. You shook up our house, and you bent our new rake. You should not be here when our mother is not. You get out of this house, said the fish in the pot. But I like to be here. Oh, I like it a lot, said the cat in the hat to the fish in the pot. I will not go away. I do not wish to go. And so, said the cat in the hat, so, I will show you another good game that I know. And then he ran out, and then fast as a fox, the cat in the hat came back in with a box. A big red wood box. It was shut with a hook. Now look at this trick, said the cat. Take a look. Then he got up on top with a tip of his hat. "I call this game Fun in a Box," said the cat. "In this box are two things I will show to you now. You will like these two things," said the cat with a bow. "I will pick up the hook. You will see something new. Two things, and I call them Thing 1 and Thing 2. These things will not bite you. They want to have fun." Then out of the box came Thing 2 and Thing 1. And they ran to us fast. They said, "How do you do? Would you like to shake hands with Thing 1 and Thing 2? And Sally and I did not know what to do. So we had to shake hands with Thing 1 and Thing 2. We shook their two hands, but our fish said, "No, no. Those things should not be in this house. Make them go. They should not be here when your mother is not. Put them out, said the fish in the pot. "Have no fear, little fish," said the cat in the hat. "These things are good things," and he gave them a pat. "They are tame, oh so tame. They have come here to play. They will give you some fun on this wet, wet, wet day. Now here is a game that they like," said the cat. "They like to fly kites," said the cat in the hat. "No, not in the house," said the fish in the pot. "They should not fly kites in a house, they should not. Oh, the things they will bump. Oh, the things they will hit. Oh, I do not like it, not one little bit." Then Sally and I saw them run down the hall. We saw those two things bump their kites on the wall. Bump, thump, thump, bump, down the wall in the hall. Thing 2 and Thing 1, they ran up, they ran down. On the string of one kite, we saw Mother's new gown. Her gown with the dots that are pink, white, and red. Then we saw one kite bump on the head of her bed. Then the things ran about with big bumps, jumps, and kicks, and with hops and big thumps, and all kinds of bad tricks. And I said, "I do not like the way that they play. If Mother could see us, oh, what would she say?" Then our fish said, "Look, look!" And our fish shook with fear. "Your mother is on her way home. Do you hear? Oh, what will she do to us? What will she say? Oh, she will not like it to find us this way. So do something fast," said the fish. "Do you hear? I saw her, your mother. Your mother is near. So as fast as you can, think of something to do. You will have to get rid of Thing 1 and Thing 2. So as fast as I could, I went after my net. And I said, "With my net, I can get them, I bet. I bet with my net, I can get those things yet." Then I let down my net. It came down with a plop. And I had them, at last. Those two things had to stop. Then I said to the cat, "Now you do as I say. You pack up those things and you take them away." "Oh dear," said the cat. "You did not like our game. Oh dear, what a shame, what a shame, what a shame." Then he shut up the things in the box with the hook, and the cat went away with a sad kind of look. "That is good," said the fish. "He has gone away. Yes, but your mother will come. She will find this big mess. And this mess is so big and so deep and so tall. We cannot pick it up. There is no way at all." And then, who was back in the house? Why, the cat. "Have no fear of this mess," said the cat in the hat. "I always pick up all my playthings. And so, I will show you another good trick that I know." Then we saw him pick up all the things that were down. He picked up the cake and the rake and the gown, and the milk and the strings, and the books and the dish, and the fan and the cup, and the chip and the fish. And he put them away, and he said, "That is that." And then he was gone with a tip of his hat. Then our mother came in, and she said to us too, "Did you have any fun? Tell me, what did you do?" And Sally and I did not know what to say. Should we tell her the things that went on there that day? Should we tell her about it? Now what should we do? Well, what would you do if your mother asked you? I wish we could do what they do in Catrue. They sure know how to say, "Happy birthday to you." In Catrue, every year, on the day you were born, they start the day right in the bright early morn, when the birthday honker hikes high up Mount Zorn and lets loose a big blast on the big birthday horn. And the voice of the horn calls out loud as it plays, "Wake up, for today is your day of all days." Then, the moment the horn's happy honk honk is heard, comes a fluttering flap flap, and then comes the bird, the great birthday bird. And so far as I know, Catrue is the only place birthday birds grow. This bird has a brain. He's most beautifully brained, with the brainiest bird brain that's ever been trained. He was trained by the most splendid club in this nation, the Catrue Happy Birthday Association. And whether your name is Pete, Polly, or Paul, when your birthday comes round, he's in charge of it all. Whether your name is Nate, Nellie, or Ned, he knows your address and he heads for your bed. You hear a soft swoosh in the brightening sky. You are not all awake, but you open one eye. Then over the housetops and trees of Catrue, you see that bird coming. To you, just to you. That bird pops right in. You are up on your feet. You jump to the window. You meet and you greet with the secret Catrue birthday high sign and shake that only good people with birthdays may make. You do it just so, with each finger and toe. Then the bird says, "Come on, brush your teeth and let's go. It's your day of all days. It's the best of the best. So don't wait a minute. Hop to it. Get dressed." And 5 minutes later, you're having a snack on your way out of town on a smorgasbord's back. "Today," laughs the bird, "eat whatever you want. Today, no one tells you you can't or you shan't. And today, you don't have to be tidy or neat. If you wish, you may eat with both hands and both feet. So get in there and munch. Have a big muncheroo. Today is your birthday. Today you are you." If we didn't have birthdays, you wouldn't be you. If you'd never been born, well then what would you do? If you'd never been born, well then what would you be? You might be a fish or a toad in a tree. You might be a doorknob or 3 baked potatoes. You might be a bag full of hard green tomatoes. Or worse than all that, why, you might be a wasn't. A wasn't has no fun at all. No, he doesn't. A wasn't just isn't. He just isn't present. But you are you. And now isn't that pleasant? So we'll go to the top of the toppest blue space, the official Catrue birthday sounding off place. Come on, open your mouth and sound off at the sky. Shout loud at the top of your voice, "I am I. Me. I am I. And I may not know why, but I know that I like it. 3 cheers. I am I." And now, on this day of all days in Catrue, the association has built just for you a railway with very particular boats. They are pulled through the air by funicular goats. These goats never slip, never trip, never bungle. They'll take us down fast to the birthday flower jungle. The best sniffing flowers that anyone grows. We have grown to be sniffed by your own private nose. They smell like licorice and cheese. Send 40 hoobubs up the trees to snip with snippers, nip with nippers, clip and clop with clapping clippers, nip and snip with clipping cloppers, snip and snop with snipping snoppers. All for you, the hoobubs clip. Happy birthday, nop and nip. Then pile the wondrous-smelling stacks on 50 hippoheimers' backs. They'll take those flowers all home for you. You can keep the hippoheimers too. While this is done, I've got a hunch. It's time to eat our birthday lunch. For birthday luncheons, as a rule, we serve hot dogs rolled on a spool. So stuff and stuff and stuff and stuff and stuff until you've had enough. Now, of course, we're all mustard. So one of the rules is to wash it all off in the mustard off pools, which are very fine warm water mountaintop tubs, which were built just for this by the mustard off clubs. Then out of the water, sing loud while you dry. Sing loud, I am lucky. Sing loud, I am I. If you'd never been born, then you might be an isn't. An isn't has no fun at all. No, he disn't. He never has birthdays, and that isn't pleasant. You have to be born, or you don't get a present. A present, aha! Now what kind shall I give? Why, the kind you'll remember, as long as you live. Would you like a fine pet? Well, that's just what you'll get. I'll get you the fanciest pet ever yet. As you see, we have here, in the heart of our nation, the official Catrue Birthday Pet Reservation. From east of the eastest to west of the westest, we've searched the whole world just to bring you the bestest. They come in all sizes, small, medium, tall. If you wish, I will find you the tallest of all. To find who's the tallest, we'll start with the smallest. We start with the smallest, then what do? We line them all up, back to back, 2 by 2. Taller and taller, and when we are through, we finally will find one who's taller than who. But you have to be smart and keep watching their feet, because sometimes they stand on their tiptoes and cheat. And so from the smaller we stack 'em up taller, and taller, and taller, and taller, and taller. And now, here's the one who is taller than aller. He's yours. He's all yours. He's the very top tallest. I know you'll enjoy him. The tallest of allest. I'll have him shipped home to you birthday express. That costs quite a lot, but I couldn't care less. Today is your birthday. Today you are you. So what if it costs me 1,000 or 2? Today is your birthday. You get what you wish. You also might like a nice time-telling fish. So I'll send diver gets, and I'll send diver gets, deep under the sea in their undersea kits. In all the wide world, there are no better pets than the time-telling fish that gets and gets. But speaking of time, why, good gracious alive, that time-telling fish says it's 4:45. I had no idea it was getting so late. We have to get going. We have a big date. And so, as the sunset burns red in the west, comes the night of the day of the best, the night of all nights in Catrue. So according to rule, what we usually do is saddle up 2 hooded clopfers named Alice and gallop like mad to the birthday palace. Your big birthday party soon starts to begin in the finest palace you've ever been in. Now this birthday palace, as soon you will see, has exactly 9,403 rooms to play games in, 12 halls for brass bands, not counting the 53 hamburger stands. And besides all of that, there are 65 rooms, just for keeping the sweeping up afterwards brooms. Because after your party, as well you may guess, it will take 20 days just to sweep up the mess. First we're greeted by drummers who drum as they come, and next come the strummers who strum as they come. And the drummers who drum and the strummers who strum are followed by zummers who come as they zum. But look at those zummers. They're sort of like plumbers. They come along humming with heads in their plumbing, and that makes the music that zummers call zumming. And all of this beautiful zumming and humming and plumbing and strumming and drumming and coming, all of it, all is for you. Look! Dr. Daring singing herrings. Daring singing spelling herrings. See what Daring's herrings do? They sing and spell it, all for you. And here comes your cake, cooked by Snookers and Snookers, the official True Happy Birthday cake cookers. And Snookers, I'm happy to say, are the only cake cookers who cook cakes today. Made of guaranteed, certified, strictly grade A, peppermint cucumber sausage paste butter, and the world's finest cake slicers, Dutter and Dutter. And Dutter, with hatchets aflutter, high up on the poop deck, stand ready to cut her. Today you are you. That is truer than true. There was no one alive who was youer than you. Shout loud, I am lucky to be what I am. Thank goodness I'm not just a clam or a ham, or a dusty old jar of sour gooseberry jam. I am what I am. That's a great thing to be. If I say so myself, happy birthday to me. Now by horseback and birdback and heiferback too. Come your friends, all your friends, from all over Catrue. And the birthday palalis heats up with hot friends, and your party goes on and on till it ends. When it ends, you've much happier, richer and fatter, and the bird flies you home on a very soft platter. So that's what the birthday bird does in Catrue, and I wish I could do all these great things for you. We want a pet. We want a pet. What kind of pet should we get? Dad said we could have one. Dad said he would pay. I went to the pet shop. I went there with Kay. And so we went in. I took one fast look. I saw a fine dog who shook hands, so we shook. So I said, I want him. But then Kay saw a cat. She gave it a pat, and she said, I want that. Then Kay said, now what do you think we should do? Dad said to pick one. We cannot take home two. Then what do you know? We saw two other kinds. Now how could Kay and I make up our minds? A pup and a kitten. They looked like good fun. Now which would we pick? We could only pick one. The cat or the dog? The kitten? The pup? Oh boy, it is something to make a mind up. Then I looked all around. I saw something with wings. I said, look at him. We can pick one that sings. But then, look over there, said my sister Kay. We can go home with a rabbit today. Then I looked at Kay. I said, what will we do? I like all the pets that I see. So do you. We have to pick one pet and pick it out soon. You know Mother told us to be back by noon. And I could have done it. I could have, I bet. I could have said what pet we should get. But you know what Kay did. Do you know what she did? She said, fish, 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 fish. It may be a fish is the pet that we wish. Then I saw a new kind, and they were good too. How could I pick one? Now what should we do? We could only pick one. That is what my dad said. But how could I make up that mind in my head? Pick a pet fast. Pick one out soon. Mother and Dad said to be home by noon. The time may be now to make up my mind. But who knows what other good pets I might find? I might find a new one, a fast kind of thing, who would fly round my head in a ring on a string. Yes, that would be fun. But our house is so small. This thing on a string would bump into the wall. My mother, I know, would not like that at all. So, maybe some other good kind of pet. Another kind maybe is what we should get. We might find a new kind, a pet who is tall. A tall pet who fits in a space that is small. My mother might like this pet best of them all. If we had a big tent, then we would be able to take home a yent. Dad would like us to have a good yent, but how do I know he would pay for a tent? So you see how it is when you pick out a pet. How can you make up your mind what to get? But what if we took one of each kind of pet? Then our house would be full of the pets we would get. No, Dad would be mad. We can only have one. If we do not choose, we will end up with none. I will do it right now. I will do it, I said. I will make up the mind that is up in my head. The dog or the rabbit, the fish or the cat. I picked one out fast, and then that was that. In all the whole town, the most wonderful spot is behind Sneelock's store in the big vacant lot. It's just the right spot for my wonderful plans, said young Morris McGurk. If I clean up the cans. Now a fellow like me, said young Morris McGurk, could get rid of this junk with a half-hour's work. I could yank up those weeds and chop down the dead tree and haul off those old cars. There are just 2 or 3. And then the whole place would be ready, you see. All ready to put up the tents for my circus. I think I will call it the Circus McGurkus. The Circus McGurkus, the world's greatest show on the face of the earth or wherever you go. The Circus McGurkus, the cream of the cream. The Circus McGurkus, the circus supreme. The Circus McGurkus, colossal, stupendous, astounding, fantastic, terrific, tremendous. I'll bring in my acrobats, jugglers and clowns from 1,033 faraway towns to the place that you'll see 'em in, ladies and gents, right behind Sneelock's store in the great McGurk tents. And I don't suppose old Mr. Sneelock will mind when he suddenly has a big circus behind. After all, Mr. Sneelock is one of my friends. He might even help out doing small odds and ends. Doing little odd jobs. He could be of some aid, such as selling balloons and the pink lemonade. I think 500 gallons will be about right. And then I'll be ready for opening night. What an opening night! What a night! What a sight! I'll hoist up the curtains. The crowds will crowd in. And my Circus McGurkus will promptly begin with a welcoming toot on my welcoming horn by my horn-tooting apes from the jungle of Jorn, where the very best horn-tooting apes are all born. 'Cause the very fresh air there is fine for their lungs. And some of those fellows have 2 or 3 tongues. This way, step right in. This way, ladies and gents. My sideshow starts here in the first of my tents. When you see what goes on, You'll say no other circus is half the great circus the Circus McGurkus is. Here on stage 1, from the ocean of Ulf, is a sight most amazing, a walrus named Rolf, who can stand on one whisker, this wonderful Rolf, on the top of 5 balls, 2 for tennis, 3 golf. It's a marvelous trick, if I say so myself. And on stage number 2, here is something quite new. From a country called From comes a drum-tummied snum, who can drum any tune that ye might care to hum. Doesn't hurt him a bit, 'cause his drum-tummy's numb. And now you'll meet the Foon, the remarkable Foon, who eats sizzling hot pebbles that fall off the moon. And the reason he likes them red hot, it appears, is he greatly enjoys blowing smoke from his ears. Of course, pebbles like this are quite hard to collect, but Sneelock will manage somehow, I expect. After all, Mr. Sneelock is one of my friends, and I'm sure he'll help out doing small odds and ends. And on stage number 4, see the wily Waloo, who can throw his long tail as a sort of lasso. With a flip of the hip, with a tail of this kind, he can capture whoever is standing behind. He can capture old Sneelock. I'm sure he won't mind. And now here is a hoodwink, who winks in his wink hood. Without a good wink hood, a hoodwink can't wink good. And folks, let me tell ya, there's only one circus with wink-hooded hoodwinks, the Circus McGurkus, the show of all shows. There's no other showman who shows you a show like the blindfolded bowman. The blindfolded bowman from Brigger Baroot, the world's sharpest sharpshooter. Look at him shoot through the holes of 4 doughnuts, 2 hairs on a worm, and the knees of 3 birds without making them squirm. And then on through a crab apple up on the head of Sneelock, who likes to help out, as I've said. And now come to this spot where the spotlight is hot, and you'll see in the spotlight a juggling jot, who can juggle some stuff ye might think he could not, such as 22 question marks, which is a lot, also 44 commas, and also 1 dot. That's the kind of a Circus McGurkus I've got, but that's just my sideshow, a start, a beginning. This way to the big tent, you'll find your head spinning. Why, ladies and gentlemen, youngsters and oldsters, your heads will quite likely spin right off of your shoulders. So hurry, step lively, quick, ladies and gents, and get into your seats in my tent of all tents. My parade of parades is about to commence. You'll see Drum Major Sneelock fling-flang his baton, and my organ McGurkus, come on, with its hot-peeping pipes of gold brass-plated tin, snorting all sorts of snorts in a bumbling din. That is super stupendous, stu-mendous, stu-roarous. And when I play Dixie, please join in the chorus. Then a fluff-muffled truffle will ride on a huffle, and next in the line, a fine flummox will shuffle. The flummox will carry a lurch in a pail, and a fibble will carry a flummox's tail. While on top of the flummox, 3 heart-twanging snarp will twang mighty twangs on their 3-snarper harp, while a bolster blows bloops on a 3-nozzled blueser. A nulster blows floops on a 1-nozzled newser. And then comes a lion who's partly a trout. Then more stuff for 45 minutes about. And then, behind them, then while everyone stares, come my to and fro marchers, who march in 5 layers. The fros march on 2s, and the 2s march on fros. Don't know how they do it, but that's how it goes. And now comes an act of enormous enormance. No former performers performed this performance. This stunt is too grippingly, slippingly frightening. Down from the top of my tent like greased lightning, through pots full of lots of big sticklebush trees, slides a man, what a man, on his roller skate skis. And he'll steer without fear, and you'll know at a glance that it's Sneelock, the man who takes chance after chance, and he won't even rip a small hole in his pants. And now here in this cage is a beast most ferocious, who's known far and wide as the Spotted Atrocious, who growls, howls, and yowls the most blood-curdling sounds, and each tooth in his mouth weighs at least 60 pounds, and he chews up and eats with the greatest of ease things like carpets and sidewalks and people and trees. But the great Colonel Sneelock is just the right kind of a man who can tame him. I'm sure he won't mind. Then I'll let Sneelock off for a few minutes' rest, while high over your heads you will see the best of the world's finest, fanciest, breezy trapezing. My Zuma Zoop troop from West Upper Bendeezing, who never quite know, while they zoop and they zoom, whether which will catch that one, or who will catch whom, or if they will catch which, by what and just where, or just when and just how, in which part of the air. Aye, what a circus, my circus McGurkus. My workers love work. They say, work us, please work us. We'll work and we'll work up so many surprises. You'd never see half if you had 40 eyeses. And now, again Sneelock, brave Sneelock is back, risking life on my patented life-risking track, while the speedsters I call my colliding collusions race round in swift cars called abrasion contusions. And Sneelock just lies there, not one bit excited. I know he won't mind. He'll be simply delighted. And here, in a contest of brute strength and muscle, Kid Sneelock, my champ of all champs, will now tussle and wrestle a beast called the Grizzly Ghastly, and slap him around. Then he'll slam him down fastly and pin both his shoulders tight flat to the mat. Kid Sneelock will love it, I'm sure about that. And while that goes on there, look at this go on here. Have you heard of my herd of through horns jumping deer? Every deer jumps through horns, and another pell-mell, while his horns are jumped through at the same time as well, by a deer whose horns also are being jumped through, by another who's having his horns jumped through too, which I'm sure Trainer Sneelock can train them to do. Then the whole tent will ring with hoorays and wild shouts, while I wheel in my whales, and they turn on their sprouts. First my whale number 1, with an aim that aims true, spouts a spout that spouts Sneelock to whale number 2. And then whale number 2 spouts his spout like a gun, and that spouts old Sneelock right back to whale 1. And then forwards and backwards, on spout after spout, my great spout rider Sneelock gets spouted about, just as long as the water their spouting holds out. Then my tournament knights, noble apes without fears, Sir Hector, Sir Vector, Sir Bops and Sir Beers, Sir Hawkins, Sir Dawkins, Sir Jocks and Sir Jeers, clatter into the tent, and while everyone cheers, stage a roustabout joust with their boxing glove spears. And while all this wild ruckusing goes on below, at the top of the tent, look, the star of my show, great daredevil Sneelock, the world's bravest type. He comes pulled through the air by 3 Subrian snipe on a dingus contraption attached to his pipe. And while people below are all turning chalk white and all biting their fingernails off in their fright. Great Sneelock soars up to a terrible height. Then he shakes himself loose. He starts down in a dive, such as no man on earth could come out of alive. But he smiles as he falls, and no fear does he feel. His nerves are like iron, his muscles like steel. And he plunges down, down, with his hair still combed neat, 4,692 feet. Then he'll land in the fishbowl. He'll manage just fine. Don't ask how he'll manage. That's his job, not mine. Why, he'll be a hero. Of course he won't mind when he finds that he has a big circus behind.